In today's Origin Showcase video, we're going to be taking a look at an origin based upon the Venti character from Genshin Impact. Yeah, we're doing another one like this again. This origin is created by the user known as Sad from the Origin's Discord server. This data pack also functions on 1.16.5. I'm not 100% sure on how it would go on 1.17, but I'm using it in 1.16.5 in this video. Anyway, moving into the description of this ability, a bow user who controls the wind, also the current mortal version of 𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼 in the Animo Aron. I'm also 90% sure that I completely stuffed up saying a majority of the words in that description, but hey, that's just how it goes sometimes. Either way, let's get started by running through the abilities. Starting off with the not efficient ability, you cannot use swords, axes, shields, and tridents whatsoever. So from testing, you can still actively use all of these items, but both swords and axes will not deal any damage to anything you hit. Essentially speaking, you won't hit anything at all. Shields don't seem to actively function properly. You can block, but it doesn't actually block anything, and you just can't hit anything physically with the trident, but you can still throw the trident and deal damage. You can also hit the like button down below because it helps the video do better in the algorithm. Hey, I didn't tell you to subscribe, I just told you to leave a like, but subscribing is also helpful too. Moving on to your next ability, you've got Archer. You can use bows and crossbows to their maximum output. Essentially speaking, you just get a slight boost in damage when it comes to using crossbows and bows. It's not really too heavy of a boost, but it's like enough at least to be noticeable. Moving on to the next ability, Memories of Regret. The never reminds you from 𝓵𝓲𝓷𝓴𝓼. The memories make you weaker. This says exactly what it does in the box you head, and whenever you get weakness. Moving to your next ability, Skyward Sonnet. Zero wind upon all hymns and songs fly. Bear these earthwalkers up into the sky. Brilliant rhyming scheme, by the way. This is honestly a really cool primary ability. Essentially speaking, you press your primary ability and you'll be sent up to the skies with levitation, going around 50 blocks into the air, then giving a brief moment of slow falling before you get dropped back to the ground. One thing to note is you will take fall damage if you do hit the ground and not hit water. And then another very interesting thing about it is that if there's any mobs close to you, including a massive horde of zombies, everything will float up into the air and drop back down and take full damage and most likely die. It is a really, really good ability in order to get out of any ambush situations on above ground. Moving into the next ability, you've got Splitting Gale. Holding a bow and sneaking, you prepare an aim shot. Firing 3 arrows at high speeds when you left click, because of iframes, only one arrow can hit an entity at a time. So the beauty behind this, these arrows are glowing arrows. Essentially speaking, when you hit a mob or anything with them and they survive, they will be glowing so you can actually see them far more clearly on the map. And this actually means that you can, with a crossbow, you can do this ability as well with a normal bow, and both of them will shoot 3 arrows from your hand when you use your left click functionality, when you use your hit functionality. But then you can also use the right click on a crossbow to have a fourth shot go after the mob as well, which ultimately leads to a really cool combo ability that you can have with this ability. Moving on to the next ability, we've got Stolen Geonosis. Mobs deal twice as much damage towards you, and you also have less health with 8 hearts total. Essentially speaking, this is an overall debuff towards you because you also have less hearts and you also take more damage from mobs as well, which ultimately isn't exactly great. Moving on to the next ability, you've got 5-star. You are a 5-star character. You have one of the best weapons in the entire game because you're the main DPS. Essentially speaking, you spawn with both for bow and an arrow. From what I can gather, this bow is pretty much a maxed out bow with infinity and doesn't take any form of durability damage either. Overall, it's a really powerful bow, but the big caveat with it is if you die and lose it, you permanently lose it because you don't get given a one every time you spawn. You only start with the one that you spawn and that's it. If you lose the one you started with, game over. It's like that's it, no more. Moving on to your next ability, you've got DPS Artifacts. Your artifacts have been solely optimized for damage, so you don't have any defense whatsoever, meaning that you cannot wear any armor that's better than chainmail. I mean, this ability does exactly what it says on the tin. You just can't wear any armor better than chainmail. There's really not too much more information towards that one. But moving on to your next ability, you've got Winged. You have an elytra wings by default without needing to equip any. Again, I'm 99.9% sure that all of you guys already understand what this means for you. You just have elytra wings from the start, that's it. Moving on to the next set of abilities, you've got Swirl. The wind surrounding you makes the elements spread far more easier than what they would normally. Starting off with the Pyro one, when on fire, you apply the pyro element to entities that you hit as long as that you burn. Essentially speaking, with this ability you can set things on fire whilst you're on fire, but reminder, you still do take damage from fire. Moving on to Cryo, when in a cold biome you apply a slowness to entities upon hit. Essentially this one just gives what it exactly says on the tin. You hit something in a cold biome like a taiga biome or the mountains or anything that's cold, you do just give them slowness. Moving into your next one, you've got Electro. When at range you can apply the Electro element which deals damage over time. Essentially speaking, this ability kind of acts like a poison except for the fact that it can kill entities upon damage, as well as it does an average on 5 hits before the ability runs out. And Wind's Grand Ode fires off an arrow made of countless color-sending winds, creating a huge amino explosion where it lands. This can hurt you a lot. This is your secondary ability and it can do a lot of damage when it hits. This also has a very long cooldown of roughly a couple of minutes before you can use it again, but again you've got to be super careful what you do with it. This explosion does what is the equivalent to a supercharged creeper explosion upon impact, meaning that if it's near you it can do a super metric ton of damage as well as a lot of damage to the landscape and potentially one-shot kill you if you're not careful at all. Either way, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're new around here, especially if you're new around here, as we're trying to actually get to 100,000 subscribers before the end of 2021, but anytime sooner than that would be absolutely amazing if we can somehow pull it off. Either way, massive thank you to my channel members, especially my $10 member 𝓵𝓷𝓷𝓴𝓼, as well as my $5 members, and until next time guys, goodbye.
Spinning around in my head, did you really mean